So, less than 48 hours after the Westminster terror attack, while civilised citizens were still mourning this horrific incident, the alt-right Twitter sphere exploded with Islamophobic memes of a Muslim woman at the scene of the attack apparently looking indifferent whilst walking past the wounded. We've blurred her face because she's come in for such abuse. A few days later, a group of predominantly Muslim women gathered on the Bridge of Westminster to condemn the attack. Responses like this are important to show the world that real Muslims condemn terror. But the point is, we all do. Law-abiding British Muslims are often made to feel they must apologise for the terrorists who have hijacked their religion. When you are a minority, if an individual that identifies with or is associated with your group does something wrong, you could be made to feel guilty by association. My parents' generation had those same feelings of guilt and shame whenever a black person was found to have committed a serious crime. It was unfair then, and it's just as unfair now. Just as we all understand the difference between white and supremacists, it's time we all understood the difference between Islam and extremism.
Hello. So, whilst I completely share your view, you know, that it's not possible for people, or certainly they shouldn't be saying all Muslims are terrorists, and, you know, I absolutely share your view in that. I don't think all Muslims are terrorists at all. And I actually felt sorry for that girl. She came out, didn't she, and did a statement, and she said, you know, I was just so shocked and all the rest of it, and she tried to help. But what I do actually think, I think that there's something going incredibly wrong at the moment. So if we look, since mid-2014 to present day, there have been over 30 terrorist attacks. This is just in Europe. Over almost 300 people dead, and hundreds, if not 1,000, injured. Yeah. The common thread between every single one of those attacks is Islamist terror. So I think that you can't...
Not all of the attacks.
Those attacks that I've just mentioned there have been performed by people...
The ones that you've picked
all
out
of those
there.
ones.
But you're not saying
Europe.
that there haven't been other terrorist attacks. That's not what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying that.
No,
what I'm saying is that in Europe alone, since mid-2014, there have been over 30 attacks, almost 300 people killed. So this is something that there's a real problem here, and we need to get to the heart of what that problem is and look to how we rectify it. And I think that I absolutely agree with you saying that Islam is to blame for all terrorism is bad, but I think that also saying Islam is not in any way, shape or form associated with terror is also quite dangerous, because then we're not accepting, we're not acknowledging that actually there are Islamist terrorists that are using Islam and they are blaming that cause for hurting and killing other people.
No, but that's not my point. So my point is, I think, unfortunately, where Islamic extremism is concerned, the conversation tends to be in a way that makes it seem as if the whole religion represents this kind of thinking. And what I'm saying is we need a balanced perspective in the same way that we understand white supremacy is its own entity. Islamic extremism is its own entity. And I think we need to make sure that there's a clear line of distinction between Islam as a whole and this dangerous sect that has emerged. That is what I'm saying.
You're right, and this is why the voices of Muslims, of mainstream Muslims, must be heard the loudest in condemnation of this, because I think it is only Muslims. If you remember how the BNP was defeated, it was defeated by the ethnic white people in this country because they were appalled at what they were saying and doing. In the same way, I think Muslims... Let me finish my point. I think because they, more than non-Muslims, they can see where it's being rooted, the way it's happening. They can see it happening in communities. They can see it happening in mosques. They can see it happening in schools. And they're the ones who can talk about it in a way that we can't. And I think a lot of non-Muslims are not able to talk about Islamist terrorism because of that. I heard a guy, just let me say, I heard a guy on LBC the other day talking about how afraid he was to speak out about Islamist terrorism. How he said because in his community he would be condemned for that, he would be ostracised, he would be judged. Now, I mean, you can't say no because he said that. That is his experience.
Nick, over to you.
This idea, look, that guy who committed those killings last week, he is no more a real Muslim than is the Archbishop of Canterbury or am I. He's a petty criminal with some hideous grievance who does not represent the faith of Islam.
He converted to Wahhabism. You can't get away from that, which is an extreme form.
Carol, when you say, where are the Muslims coming forth and doing that? Remind me, when Dr Shipman killed all his patients, did we expect all the doctors to march along bridges? When Peter Sutcliffe, who was a lorry driver, was unmasked as a Yorkshire Ripper, where are all the lorry drivers? You cannot do this. What you have to allow is that as an incredibly narrow and, yes, deadly, literally deadly streak of Islamism, but it is not the guy who is down at your local curry shop, who is working in the hospital, the woman...
Hold on,
finish, let me finish. You said all Muslims should be doing more. Why?
Why? Because I think it's only them that can change what's happening. I can't, as a non-Muslim, I don't see it happening. I don't see the root of it happening.
Carol, sorry,
and this
Greg,
is the idea. We can't even have this conversation
without
people saying
this. Let
this.
Greg come in.
June, I'm not sure I agree with you. I mean, I thought the reporting of this last week was pretty responsible.
Me too.
I didn't think...
responsible
in the sense that I think we're way beyond... Now, there might be people on Twitter who aren't, but that's just, you know, any old Joe out there who wants to say what he thinks, and if he's got a prejudice, he'll have a prejudice. But by and large, the media, I thought, behaved pretty well. I thought the politicians behaved pretty well. I mean, there's a clip from the Prime Minister, which is worth looking at.
Yeah.
It is wrong to describe this as Islamic terrorism. It is Islamist terrorism. It is a perversion of a great faith.
I mean, we all, when it happens, and you're right, the figures that you see do suggest there are a lot of people who are of Muslim faith who are doing these things. But that doesn't mean it's the Muslim faith that's doing those things. But I don't know what... I think we're beyond now having to say that every single Muslim has got to stand up and say this is terrible. We know they think it's terrible. That picture on the bridge was very impressive, I thought. Very interesting.
And all the more impressive because it was a group of Muslim women. That's why it was really impressive. And that's why it touched us all, because they were Muslim women.
But I don't think we are beyond it. I think... Did you see Saeeda Vasi on Mar last week? I thought the way she spoke about this was brilliant. In that, I don't think we are beyond it. I think I agree with you that the reporting was really responsible where this terror attack is concerned. Nobody can say it wasn't. But the general tone, I think if you ask your average Muslim how they feel, it's very difficult to have the conversation just in the context of this was a terrible, terrible incident. It's almost like you must defend Islam first before you have the next bit of the conversation. And I understand this firsthand because I remember as a child, with my parents, whenever anything would happen on the television and it was, you know, a really serious crime, they would be petrified that it wasn't a black person because they would feel when they went to work the next day that they would somehow have to answer for this person that they had nothing to do with.
Would you accept...
And we cannot pretend it doesn't exist.
Would you accept that some mainstream Muslims are scared to speak out about the extremists in their faith? Would you accept that? Because I find quite a lot of fear in Muslim people. A couple of years ago, I interviewed some women who'd been subjected to FGM. You know about that. I've done a lot of work with that. And these 4 women that I interviewed were living in hiding because they'd had death threats from men within the Muslim community because they had somehow shamed their culture by speaking out about this barbaric thing. There is fear within that religion, and that's why I want to hear. And I think a lot of Muslims are scared to speak out against extremists.
I just think that your average Muslim thinks just the way we all do, and unfortunately they feel they have to defend something that has nothing to do with it.
They don't have to defend it, they just have to condemn it. They don't have to apologise or defend it, just condemn it.
Well, I agree with Nick. This guy, I mean, from what I've read of it, and you can only know what you've read or listened to, from what I've read of it, this guy is a one-off. He's not a
one-off. He had links to extremist groups.
No, he didn't.
No,
yes, he did.
Carol.
No, they had him on the...
In Mujahideen, he was living near some guys and next to some guys who were supporters of that group.
That's
he went to Saudi 3 times.
They're saying they have no proof that he had.
Well, they have no proof, but he went to Saudi 3 times.
Yeah, but that's not enough to prove anything.
Yeah, but he was on the radar.
On the periphery.
Terrorist service.
I mean, what I found terrifying about it was that all you had to do was hire a car and get a kitchen knife, and you can create havoc.
And that's what shows you he wasn't linked to any terrorist
But he
would have had a lot more than just the knife and a hire car.
He was involved. You can't say he wasn't linked. He was on the radar for security services. They were worried about him.
Anyway, I want to pick up about the girl on the bridge herself. She had a beautiful statement, and what she said is, what the image does not show is that I had talked to other witnesses to try and find out what was happening and to see if there was anything I could do to help. Even though enough people were at the scene tending to the victims, I then decided to call my family and to say I was fine and I was making my way home. So that's what she was doing, and for it to be blown into something else, I just think is terrible.
I feel sorry for her, and I do. I said that right at the start, but I think to deny that there is any link here is wrong. To have an honest conversation about these things that are happening, that's what's needed. And my final example is, I remember a year or a couple of years ago, whatever, Manchester Police did a practice of a terrorist event in a shopping centre. And they started, their step one was someone bursting into the shopping centre and shouting Allahu Akbar. And they got absolutely panned by the Muslim community for saying that they shouldn't do that. And they came back and apologised. That infuriated me, because the reality was, in that scenario that they were trying to predict, that would have been the first step that had happened.